The webinar topic today is Slow Pay, No Way, and we are covering 3 simple tips to get paid faster. My name is Charlotte McPherson, and I'm tuning in from New Orleans. I'm a construction payment specialist here at Zealing. And real quick, for those of you who don't know, Zealing is a software company that helps construction companies take the stress out of getting paid. So my experience includes helping hundreds of companies improve their process for getting paid on time and reducing their risk of bad debt. I'm also joined today with my co-host, Nate Buddy. Nate, you want to take a minute and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Charlotte. I'm Nate Buddy, and I am the Chief Legal Officer here at Zealing. Before starting at Zealing over 6 years ago, I practiced construction law, so I know the problems associated with getting paid fairly and on time in construction firsthand. We built the Zealing system to help people navigate the complex landscape surrounding construction payment to make sure you're paid stress-free. With that said, we can jump right into it. It comes as no surprise to anybody tuning in that payment in the construction industry is a big problem. No matter the project and parties involved, getting paid is more stressful than it needs to be, and the facts make that clear. Compared to other industries, companies in construction have some of the longest waits for payment. Nearly 90% of contractors have to wait at least 30 days for payment, and the average time to payment is about 70 days after invoice or payout. And that wait just gets longer and longer when you consider retainage payments. A recent study concluded that late payments cost the construction industry $40 billion a year. That's a big problem, and it's one that can be felt directly on an individual scale. When slow payment is coupled with the low margins that are common in construction, significant problems can occur for everybody on a project. This enormous $40 billion problem reaches everybody on the project. It's felt up and down the payment chain. It seems like the same issues have been around forever, with little being done to actually fix it. It takes a long time for payments to make their way through the payment chain to get to their final destination. And it can take even longer when those payments and associated documents are unfairly being used as leverage. When a problem arises on a construction project, the owner, lender, GC, they all immediately look to how much money is being held back. That's how much money has not yet been paid to the other participants. Payment on the job is used as leverage in ways that make payments slower for everybody. This slow payment, even if it's just a small amount of money, can add up quickly and snowball into a big problem. It creates a gap in a company's finances that has to be filled. Just because you haven't been paid doesn't mean that you don't have to meet your own payroll expenses or pay for your own materials. Many construction industry participants cover this gap with business or personal savings or lines of credit or other loans which result in extra financing fees. Further cuts into your margins. Needing to float the costs associated with doing business for multiple jobs while being forced to wait around for payment is a key factor in why trade groups have said the construction industry needs to be dragged kicking and screaming to payment reforms. And this problem is faced by a ton of different companies. The prevalence and pervasiveness of the problem is clearly shown by the numbers surrounding construction payment. 92% of construction participants have said they had difficulty collecting payment. 84% have experienced cash flow problems. 31% say they rarely get paid on time, with 4% saying they never get paid on time. With these numbers, it's no wonder why the failure rates of companies involved in construction are some of the highest of any industry. It's really hard to successfully run a business when you don't get paid.
And slow payments don't discriminate on the size of your company or the industry that you're in. So the stats that we just looked at were based on a survey that collected information from companies of every size, ranging from a one-man shop all the way up to companies of over 250 employees. It covered all different construction industries and companies that have a variety of different payment terms. So we know that slow pay and slow payment is a big challenge in the construction industry, but what exactly does that mean for your business? How does it affect you? Let's look a little bit deeper. I'm going to use an example of a fictional character, a subcontractor named Doc. Doc is actually based off of someone who I spoke with last week. And he's a painter working on a new apartment building in the town over from him. He's responsible for covering all of the material costs on the job. Some of those materials are on 30-day terms, which is pretty standard for materials. Some of the materials he does have to cover upfront. He pays his employees every 2 weeks, so he's got that expense to keep in mind. And Doc just started the job, so he hasn't been paid yet. He doesn't know exactly when he will get paid. But the average, as Nate mentioned, that it takes for a company in construction to get paid is 73 days. So if it takes 73 days, that's almost 2 months for Doc to get paid. That means he'll be covering up to 4 biweekly payrolls, at least 4 weeks worth of materials or more if he's paying up front. And this is all before he ever sees a dime of revenue from his customer. So, where does this money come from? What do you do if you're in this situation? Well, it's a little bit more of what you don't do. Being in one of these situations means that you don't have the financial capital to take on more projects, which inhibits your ability to grow your business. It starts to bring up questions about how you're going to pay your employees and laborers, how you're going to pay your material bills, and how you're going to manage the rest of your business. If you're so focused on trying to figure out where your next paycheck is going to come from and where you're going to get paid for your project, it's difficult to handle all the other components of running or managing a business and your responsibility there. If this sounds familiar at all, you are not alone. 84% of construction companies have experienced cash flow problems like this, and 13% say that it's a constant problem. So the decisions of what you do and how you pay your bills in these scenarios can be incredibly stressful. But what if it didn't have to be this way? What if you could start getting paid faster? Instead of spending your time ineffective and inefficiently making collection calls and stressing about maxing out your credit, you could spend your time bidding on new jobs, handling the other paperwork, spending time with your family. Here are a few companies that have taken control of their slow payment problems. But with so many companies in the construction industry facing this problem, what secret do these companies know that the others don't? These companies are in a variety of industries all across the country, but they all have one thing in common. They are all leveraging their mechanics lien rights to get paid.
Let me jump in there for a second, Charlotte. What does leveraging mechanics lien rights to get paid really mean, though? And I want to be clear that it doesn't mean just filing mechanics liens left and right on every project, or even on a majority of your projects. It's true that mechanics liens are a very powerful tool, and it's also true that they help contractors and suppliers get paid every day. But the ultimate goal is to get paid by preventing problems, communicating effectively, and building relationships. The goal is not to file liens. So how can somebody do that? What's that going to look like?
So I'll tell you a quick story about Marisol. She's an account receivable manager at a company called Bay Plumbing. They're a plumbing subcontractor based in Florida. They do both residential and commercial projects. Bay's a small company. They've got a support staff of about 5 people, and Marisol's main responsibility is handling collections. When we first got to know Marisol, she was dealing with a problem that may sound familiar. She was having trouble collecting on a few past due invoices. In Marisol's case, she was dealing with 2 delinquent customers in particular, and even though she had called and emailed each of them upwards of 20 times, neither was responding. So after weeks of trying lots of different things, trying to get a hold of them, Marisol was extremely frustrated with the lack of response, and her boss was starting to get worried that they might never see payment. So they reached out to Zealing for some help. Marisol sent a preliminary notice, which is called an NTO or notice to owner in Florida, to 2 of her delinquent customers, and both paid their past due invoices almost immediately. She then sent that same preliminary notice to a 3rd customer who was heading towards delinquency status, and that customer paid immediately as well. So after all of this time and effort Marisol had spent trying to get these customers to pay their bills, finally, the answer that she found was sending this preliminary notice, and sending it through Zealing was able to get her customers to pay. So after she was able to collect on 100% of her delinquent accounts, Marisol started sending preliminary notices at the start of her job, and now her customers consistently pay on time, and some of them even reach out and ask her how they can pay. So that's a really big change here. She went from being worried about not receiving payment at all to her customers proactively reaching out about how they can pay her on time. The key here is that Marisol sent preliminary notices. But what did a preliminary notice do to help her get paid? Let's start with what is a preliminary notice.
That's a good question, and I can help explain that a little bit. Preliminary notices are the first step to leveling the playing field in construction payment, and they do that in a couple of different ways. Mechanics liens are an incredibly powerful tool, and they can virtually guarantee payment. But in order to retain the right and ability to file a valid and enforceable lien, most states require some sort of preliminary notice to be provided to at least the property owner. Harnessing the potential power of a mechanics lien is not the only benefit, though. Preliminary notices provide benefits for both the sender and the recipients. The sender retains the ability to file a lien if necessary, and also raises their hand to make themselves visible to the parties controlling the money. If the sender didn't contract with the property owner directly, the owner might not even know that the sender is on the project doing work. But because of the preliminary notice hand raise, the recipient is provided information and is made aware of the sender's contribution to the project, so that liens arising from hidden parties can be avoided. Since mechanics liens can ultimately result in the sale of the owner's property, the owner understandably wants to make sure that no liens are filed. Gaining visibility into the project participants allows the owner to track and manage payments and collect lien waivers, so that the property and project can remain lien-free. And parties who are visible and who have retained lien rights are put first in line for payment. Owners, lenders, and GCs track the parties who provided notice or still have lien rights and pay them first. It's even a feature of project management software. And this visibility is always a benefit. And a preliminary notice provides that visibility whether or not it's specifically required by state law. Even in situations when a notice may not be a legal requirement, it still speeds up payment and promotes open communication. So it's a good idea to provide notice on every project, whether it's required to retain lien rights or not. Making sure that you're a known party from whom lien waivers should be received prioritizes your payment and streamlines the process. So after you've sent the preliminary notice that identifies you to the parties with the money so that they know to collect lien waivers from you, you then have to actually send the lien waiver to ultimately streamline payment. Lien waivers and their efficient exchange are one of the backbones to a fair payment system in the construction industry. The main purpose of a lien waiver is to provide protection to the paying party. In exchange for making payment, the paying party receives a lien waiver that waives the payee's right to file a lien for the amount that they were paid. So in essence, the waiver works like a receipt that protects the paying party from paying twice for the same work. This is really important to the payer because it frees them from mechanics lien liability for the amounts that they have already paid, and it helps keep the project running and free of lien filings. Having a lien waiver provides reassurance that once payment has been properly made, they're no longer responsible for that amount, and they don't need to worry about being forced to pay twice for the same work. This is also where the visibility provided by sending preliminary notices comes into play. Every party on a project begins work with the ability to file a lien that encumbers the property and could ultimately result in its foreclosure and sale. Clearly, then, the owner wants to protect against that possibility, and a way to do so is to collect lien waivers from every party on the job. And this is impossible unless they know who everybody on the project is, or if everybody on the project provides lien waivers without waiting for a specific request to do so. Providing a conditional waiver, along with each request for payment, shortens the waiver collection process and results in faster payment. You want to notice that I said sending a conditional waiver along with each invoice or pay app can shorten the time to payment. It's important to emphasize the conditional there because providing the right type of lien waiver can be crucial. There are generally 4 types of lien waivers. There are 2 main types, conditional waivers and unconditional waivers, and each of these are broken down further depending on whether the waiver is provided with respect to a progress or partial payment or with respect to the final expected payment on the project. Conditional waivers can be sent at any time without much worry because these are not effective until the condition of payment is actually met. Unconditional waivers, though, can be a little bit more dangerous. An unconditional waiver provides evidence of payment and it waives lien rights whether or not the payment has actually been received. So in many cases, what the waiver says is more important than what actually happened. This means that conditional waivers should be sent freely, but unconditional waivers should only be sent after payment has been received. And there are multiple reasons to send conditional waivers freely. The first of these reasons is that sending conditional waivers prior to a request can help build stronger business relationships. By including a conditional waiver with each invoice sent to your customer, you show that you are organized, you understand the lien waiver process, and you understand and want to help your customer with their own pain points. This thoughtfulness and professionalism will only serve to increase your reputation as a business that truly gets it and as a partner that is good to work with. It also proves that you're a team player because the lien waiver is an important form of security for your customer. And by providing the conditional waiver to them, potentially even before it's asked for, you're showing that you believe in a transparent payment process that's fair for both sides. This small and really easy action can go a long way in making the entire payment process smooth and seamless for both sides. And the second reason to provide conditional waivers prior to request is that it promotes faster payment. When your customer has their needed waiver in hand, they're secure to release your payment without worry. By sending the waiver along with your invoice, it cuts out steps and you get paid faster. There is a perceived catch-22 with lien waivers. The party who's paying doesn't want to pay until the waiver is received, and the waiving party doesn't want to give up their rights until the payment is received. So who sends it first? Luckily, this is a false problem that really just comes about from a misunderstanding of the available solutions. The who sends first game can be easily avoided with the understanding of how conditional lien waivers work. By sending conditional waivers that are effective upon payment, the waiver can be sent along with your invoice or pay app prior to any request from the paying party, and you can get paid faster. Plus, you remain protected because if payment isn't received, the waiver never becomes binding. This conditional waiver solution also helps you avoid relying on escrow, which often causes additional delays and is built on the foundation of mistrust. Ultimately, by providing your customer with the waiver that they need with every invoice, it allows them to submit payment to you more quickly and without worry.
So we've talked about, just to recap, those preliminary notices, those documents that Marisol was sending, and she started sending them at the start of the job to prevent any slow payment. And then Nate was just talking through waivers and how sending waivers with an invoice can also speed up the time it takes for you to get paid. Both of these are proactive ways to get paid faster, something you can do to prevent problems. But what if the problem's already here? What if you're in the middle of a project and payment is late? What do you do then? I'm going to share a story for this next tip about Danita. She's the controller at International Marble, which is a supplier based in Georgia, and they furnish supplies all over the country. When we met, International Marble's over 90-day receivables had grown to 70% of their total AR. She was trying collections calls and emails, letters, only leading to empty promises of payment or they were ignored. So she was stressed and frustrated, and she heard from a friend in the construction industry that they recommended she send a notice of intent. After she sent a notice of intent, her customers paid her so fast, and I quote, "so fast it would make your head spin." Why does this document have so much success? Well, it works because it uses the threat of a mechanic's lien as leverage. A notice of intent is essentially a demand letter that states, if I'm not paid in X number of days, I will file a mechanic's lien. And as some of you know, a lien is a 4-letter word in construction. No one ever wants a lien on their project. That includes the property owner, the general contractor, your customer, the lender, you, the list just goes on. So when you send a notice of intent to lien, it really grabs these other parties' attention.
It does grab their attention, but let me jump in here for a second. Many companies really get nervous about what this may do to their relationships. This is completely understandable. Your business is only going to succeed if you have a good reputation and you have repeat business partners. Since a notice of intent to lien is related to, and it even mentions that 4-letter word that you were talking about, lien, it can seem scary to send. But if you think about it for a minute, it's clear that this is another opportunity to provide information, and it's a channel for communication. While it is an indication of slow payment, it's a document that can actually really be appreciated. Open communication is the goal to make payment better. The better the communication and the more information is available, the less likely it is that an unrecoverable payment problem will arise or that a mechanic's lien will need to be filed on a project. So sending a notice of intent gives other parties a clear opportunity to prevent a mechanic's lien by getting a heads up that a mechanic's lien is an actual possibility if some action isn't taken. In fact, this document is even required in some states just for that reason, so that GCs and property owners can get a heads up before a lien is filed. Depending on with whom you contracted, the property owner or general contractor might not even know you're having trouble getting paid. And trust me, once they find out, they will do everything they can to prevent a mechanic's lien, even if that means paying you directly. And if you are hired by the property owner or GC, the notice provides information that a mechanic's lien is a real possibility and gives an opportunity to make the moves necessary for it to be avoided, making sure you get paid. So to recap here quickly, quicker payment in construction can be as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, send preliminary notices on every project to promote visibility and retain your lien rights. 2, send conditional waivers with every invoice or pay app prior to getting a request for that waiver in order to streamline payment. And 3, if payment remains slower than desired, you can harness the potential power of a mechanic's lien while still maintaining open channels of communication and good relationships by sending a notice of intent to lien.
So if you're stressed about getting paid, whether that's on just one project with a new customer maybe you have never worked with before, or it's a variety of bigger projects that you're working on, or if you're working on a project that hasn't even started yet and you're nervous about it, or a project that's completed and you're just not getting any response from your customer, remember that leveraging your mechanic's lien rights can really help you get paid faster and bring the peace of mind that your payment is secured. So, with 92% of construction companies having difficulty getting paid, what if you didn't have to be a part of that number? So if you're ready to get started and get paid faster, Zealing has stress-free ordering where you can rest assured that your notices and your waivers are done right. There's absolutely no charge to send a waiver through Zealing, and I've included a promo code on the screen here that shows how you can get 50% off for any notice. That includes a preliminary notice or a notice of intent. And I'm going to show you a quick video that walks you through how easy it is to send one of these documents.
This quick video is going to teach you how to order a document through your free account. You can start a new document by clicking the green Create Document button in the upper right, or from the left sidebar by clicking the green plus icon and then Create Document. Once you click, you'll be able to see the various documents you can order from your free account. Let's file a Notice of Intent to Lien or a lien warning. Every state has different terminology for each of these documents. Since we've ordered other documents in the past, we have recent projects on the left that we can reuse, or we can start from scratch on a new project on the right. Since we filed a preliminary notice on the Ames residence, and it's been a few weeks and we still don't have payment, let's file a Notice of Intent to Lien on them. After selecting the Ames residence and moving to the next step, we can enter how much the project contract was for. Proceed to the next step where you can check the boxes of who should receive it and maybe even add another recipient as needed. You can enter your credit card information here at the top, and if you need the document to go out within 2 business days, make sure to rush your order. Standard orders take about 3 to 5 business days to be mailed out. And that's it. Press order and our software will begin building your document and getting it into our mail queue. You'll be able to see the document in your account soon. Thanks for watching our video series to help you get the most out of your free account. We hope you learned something, and remember that our support team is on call during business hours to help answer any other questions you might have. Happy building, everyone!
So you can see there just how easy it is to file one of these documents, and that's all through a free account in Zealing. We also have payment advisors that you're welcome to speak to. So if you know exactly what document you need to send, feel free to use this promo code and go ahead and send it from a free account. If you're not sure what your next steps are, you want to talk through some of the specific challenges that your business is having, feel free to give us a call or go to hub.zealing.com/get-in-touch. We're now going to jump over to the question portion. So we're going to take a look at the questions box and see what questions you all have had. If you haven't had an opportunity to add your question, feel free to go ahead and add it now. So one of the questions that I see here is asking about general contractors requesting waivers to be signed in a particular form, so with a particular template. Nate, do you want to tackle that, and if that's an okay practice to do?
Sure, Charlotte. There are 12 states that have specific statutory required waiver forms, and in those 12 states, only the statutory waiver form can be used. In every other state, it's kind of the wild, wild west in terms of what the lien waiver form can be, and pretty much anything can be included on the form itself. The answer, I guess, is 2 parts. One, if it's in one of the 12 states that has a statutory form, that form has to be used. And if it's not, you just want to be really careful when you're looking at the form to make sure that if you mean to send a conditional waiver, you're using a conditional form. If you mean to send an unconditional waiver, you're using that form.
All right, another question here is, how do I find the property owner on a job? Nate, you want to talk about maybe why that's important information to have and how you might be able to get it?
Sure. Preliminary notices all have specific required information that have to be included on them. And this information can change from state to state. But generally, the property owner and a description of the property is required on all preliminary notices. There's a lot of different ways that people can find that information. You can request it from others on the job, like the GC. You can look at county assessor sites or look for notices of commencement that may have been filed. If you are using Zealing to help you with the notice process, we have an entire team of people who do that type of research and find that information for you so it can take that off your plate.
Here's one. Is there a minimum amount of an invoice to place a lien?
Generally, no requirement that the amount due exceed a certain amount before a lien is filed. Practically speaking, there are costs associated with filing a lien. Not too much generally in relation to a construction project to prohibit filing them, but if you only have a couple $100s that is past due, it might not be fiscally responsible choice to file a lien. But for the vast majority of past due invoices, it would be appropriate, and there's no minimum amount.
How effective is this process when working for governmental companies like universities or the federal government?
That's another good question. That's an interesting question because the process itself is still very effective and works, but the terminology and the actual documents used are a little bit different. Instead of a mechanics lien on federal projects, a claim is made against a bond. Same with other public projects. The claim is made against a bond, which is basically a big pile of money that's put there to provide the same security that the property itself provides on a private project. The government doesn't like you taking their property, so they mandate that people put these bonds up to provide that same security. But providing the notice at the start of the project to make sure everybody know you're there, and then providing a waiver of the bond claim right along with the invoice, if those don't work to speed up your payment sufficiently, sending a notice of intent to make a claim against the bond, are all effective on public projects just like they are on private.
All right, it looks like that might be all the questions that are up there right now, and I know we're getting close on time. If you've got any other questions, feel free to reach out to us at the phone number that you see on your screen or go to zlean.com. We've got lots of free resources that are available and opportunities for you to talk to a payment advisor. You can also leave a question for one of our construction attorneys, and Nate is one of those people who will respond back to you. So lots of ways for you all to get answers for any of the questions or get specific details on your particular trouble with getting paid faster. Thanks so much.